ever catch yourself thinking, ugh, that process is going to take forever. I'll just grab Sarah real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Happens to the best of us, right?
Right.
But turns out there's a whole area of research dedicated to this kind of workplace improvisation, the Hey-Joe-Effekt. And today we're going to do a deep dive into why people do this and what it really means for, well, everyone involved.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff, really. It gets to this really interesting tension between, like, wanting to be efficient, wanting to get things done,
Right?
and the structures and systems that, are supposed to be there for a reason.
Right, right. So just so everyone's on the same page, when we say Hey-Joe effect, we're talking about those times when you bypass the official way of doing something. Instead of, submitting a request or going through the proper channels,
Right.
you just go straight to someone you know and say, hey, Joe, can you just take a quick look at this for me?
Exactly, like taking a shortcut,
Yeah.
Instead of the main road, you cut through someone's backyard to save a little time.
I love that analogy.
Yeah. And this is important, like any shortcut, it has its downsides.
Oh, for sure.
We actually have this research paper called, it's called Hey-Joe-Effekt.pdf.
Catchy.
Yeah, well, and it brings up some pretty important drawbacks to this whole thing.
Like what?
Well, for starters, you get scheduling conflicts, right? Because no one's really tracking these Hey Joe favors.
Right.
It's all off the books. And then you have these poorly defined requests because things are so informal. Like what started to, hey, can you just take a quick look?
Right. Just a quick look.
Turns into hours of work. No one's clear on what they're supposed to be doing.
Oh, I've been there.
And then gets even weirder. It can even lead to what they call a shadow organization
Mm-hmm.
operating within a company.
A shadow organization. That sounds a little ominous.
Right? Like you got this whole network of favors and side deals happening.
Outside the actual structure of the company.
Exactly.
So who's really in charge then? That's kind of unnerving when you think about it.
It is. And it can have real consequences, right?
Yeah.
Imagine a crucial project
Yes.
hinges on this unspoken agreement, this Hey Joe promise someone made.
Right.
Then that person gets sick or they leave the company.
Oh, everything falls apart.
Chaos. Utter chaos.
That actually reminds me of this time when I was working on this project. We were under a really tight deadline, and I
Yeah.
needed access to this shared drive, but IT was taking forever.
Ugh, the worst.
So instead of waiting, I just, I went to a colleague who I knew had access and asked him to just, share a couple of files with me.
The Hey Joe maneuver.
Exactly. And it seemed harmless at the time, but then he went on vacation, and I desperately needed something from that drive.
Oh, no.
It was a nightmare.
Yeah, you see, that's exactly the kind of thing that could happen. But here's the thing. The paper, it also argues that just focusing on the negative side, the risks, it misses a really crucial aspect of the whole Hey Joe effect.
Okay, what's that?
Recognition.
What do you mean?
Often, the reason people resort to this informal system, is because they crave acknowledgement for their work.
So it's not always about laziness or avoiding work?
Not always, no. Think about it. When you directly help someone, you get that instant gratification.
Right.
You see the impact of your contribution. You get that thank you right away. You feel valued. And that can be really motivating in a way that formal processes often miss.
Oh, totally. It's like the difference between handing someone a thank you note directly and just hoping they see your name on some company-wide email.
Exactly. And the author of this paper, Dr. Matthias Hettl,
Okay.
he's like this big shop management consultant, worked with huge companies, even the UN. And he's adamant that acknowledging employees is absolutely key to combating this whole Hey Joe phenomenon.
So wait, he's saying a thank you is more effective than restructuring your entire workflow.
Well, in a way, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Having clear procedures is super important.
Right, of course.
But not at the expense of recognizing people, A little appreciation can go a long way in creating a culture where people feel valued, so they're less likely to seek that validation through these Hey Joe shortcuts.
So for someone listening to this, maybe even thinking, oh, I do that all the time, how do they find that balance, that sweet spot between efficiency and, not accidentally creating a shadow organization in their workplace?
It's about being mindful,
Mm-hmm.
right? Before you bypass a system, just take a second and ask yourself, is this a genuine exception, or am I just avoiding the official route because it feels like a hassle?
Right, right.
And if it's the latter, then maybe dig a little deeper. Maybe you are craving that acknowledgement, that direct feedback.
That's a really good point. So maybe the next time we're tempted to say, hey, Joe, got a sec, We should think about whether a quick thank you to the person who usually handles that task might be the more satisfying approach in the long run.
Now you're getting it.
Food for thought.
Definitely.
Well, on that note,
Yeah,
I think we've earned a little shortcut ourselves.
I'm all for it.
To the coffee machine.
You read my mind.